Hey, welcome back to the vlog and happy 4th of July week. I just got to say, I am very, very pleased that June is over with. This is a graph basically of the first half of the year and then hit June. And this is a graph that illustrates what happened in June. It was a brutal month. Ended up losing 13 buy-ins. For those who are not good at math, that's $6,500 for the month. And that stings. I haven't had a downswing like this in a very, very long time. But hopefully we can turn it around because we are in July. Well, this is the first actual hand we played. We did win a couple blinds and stuff to keep our stack about even. But it's been 40 minutes, haven't really gotten involved. The player to our right has been very, very active, playing probably 60 to 70% of all their hands. Now, not only has he been active, but he's been putting a lot of chips in the center. I have a good drawing hand. Hopefully I can flop something good. I decided not to try to isolate, just put in the call and see a flop. Player on the button has different things in mind. He raises to $30. I figured if he had something stronger, he would raise more. So I still think I have a good shot at winning this if I flop two pair, a straight, a flush. You know the deal. Flop comes out, king, queen, jack, with the jack of spades and two hearts. Well, I got a straight, and I got a flush draw, and I got a straight flush draw. First player checks. I check over to the raiser. He puts out a bet for $40. Player to my right thinks for a little bit before putting in the call. There's a lot of possible draws here. I can definitely be charging them at this point. I got the second best hand available. Doesn't look like anyone else will have a lot. The player who bet the original 40 has a shortest stack, so I'm pretty sure if he has any part of that, he's going to get all in. So I slide out 175. Well, the player on the button actually didn't have enough to call. He decides to let it go. The player to my right decides to jam, and he mentions something about a flush draw when he did it. I'm going, well, he definitely could have a flush draw. He can have two pair. He can have a lot of stuff here. But in this case, he has ace 10 for the nut straight on the flop, and I get felted my first hand. Well, of course, that's not the exact start I was looking for, flopping the second nuts and being basically drawing dead to a tie. But maybe I can do better on this next hand. I have queen 10 of diamonds in the low jack. Open for a raise to 15, get call from the player in the cutoff, and another from the small blind. We go three ways to a flop. That comes out pretty good. It comes king 9-7 with two diamonds. This is one of those high equity flops that you would want to bet just to build a pot. Don't want to go too crazy with it. I did have some bad luck with these combo draws the previous week where I flopped a bunch of big combo draws and end up getting felted on all of them. So I'm just going to build the pot slowly and hopefully hit this hand and then see if we can get paid off. Well, that's the plan. Let's see how it works. Well, the small blind checks. I bet for $20. Just trying to build a little bit of a pot. Both of my opponents call. Turn card comes as probably the worst card in the deck. It's a king of spades. Not only does it bring in a backdoor flush draw, but of course it pairs the top, and anyone that has a king is going absolutely nowhere. So when it's checked to me, I'm just going to check it, hopefully get a cheap or a free card. My opponent in the cutoff now bets for $70. I'm sure he has a king. He's a fairly conservative player. Well, I think I'm getting about the right pot odds, but now the player in the small blind puts in the call. I'm kind of thinking he's on a draw. Maybe he has a straight draw. Maybe he has a flush draw. But I think my flush draw is probably better than his. So I'm going to call. Hopefully I can hit a jack, a diamond. And if a diamond comes, I could possibly get all my chips in against the player in the small blind if he makes the flush as well. All right, we got a little over $300 in the pot. Only thing we need is a jack or a diamond, and we get the ace of hearts. Of course, we miss. Seems like this is what's been happening so far this month of June. I say I miss. My opponent shows king, queen of clubs, and on to the next hand. Well, I'm in the big blind and I'm against a player with a big stack. I got 10-8 suited. He raised to 16. I call. The flop comes ace 9-7 with two clubs and one spade. So I got an open under. Very likely my opponent has an ace in his hand or will represent an ace. So I check. He bets 15. I'm definitely going to be calling. Turn card is a king of spades. So we bring in a flush draw along with our straight draw. I check it over to him again. This time he sizes up. I think he has a pretty good hand, a hand that he will not be folding at any point. So there's no point in trying to represent a big hand at this time. His range is much, much stronger than mine. And unless I'm trying to represent a set of sevens or nines, I don't think he'll even fold for that. I call. We see a river card of a three of diamonds. That does not help our hand. We don't make a straight. We don't make a flush. Only thing we have is 10 high. But I'm not surrendering yet. I want to see what he puts out as his bet sizing. Trying to get all the information I can. Maybe it'll be useful later on, next week, next month. Who knows? He slides out for $150. And of course, I fold. Well, about an hour later, I pick up a pair of queens. There were a couple limpers. I raise to $20, get called just about everywhere. We end up going 5 ways to this flop. A little over $100 in the middle. Well, hoping for a clean flop. We don't really get it when it comes 6-5-3 rainbow. It's not really great for my particular hand against 4 other opponents. I decided to check it when it got to me just to see what the players behind me would do. The first player decides to bet $40. He quite possibly could have an overpair or something. The next player makes it $100. Yeah, this is just a bad situation. I don't really think he is as strong as his bet, though. I think he might be doing this with a hand like 7-8 and trying to get a cheap card for the turn to see if he makes his hand. Of course, he could have something like pocket sixes or pocket fives or even 5-6. But I decided it's his style of play. I think I have to put it in a call. I'm not in love with it, but my plan is if a blank comes, I'm going to check shove on him and hope for the best. Dealer grabs the chips, puts them in, and puts up the 9 of diamonds. So if he had a hand like 7-8, I'm totally toast now. I check it to him, kind of curious what he'll do, see if I can get a read off of him. He looks like he's really in love with this hand, and he just wants to suck me in a little bit further, and he bets another $100. He either has 7-8 or 5-6 or a set. Probably should have just folded this on the flop, save myself an additional $100. But I was stubborn, and it's still June, so I lose. Here I pick up a pair of 10s in middle position. Of course, I open up for a raise to $15. Get called in 3 spots or 2 spots. We go 3 ways to this flop with 49 in. Flop comes Jack 10-7. Very coordinated, very dangerous flop. I lead a little small here. I should put in a bet for $25 or $30, but I put in 15, which kind of makes everyone call. And then we get probably the worst possible card on the turn. Not only does it bring in the front door flush, it also makes a 1-card straight. I check it. Next player checks, and the last player bets $30. Kind of a small bet. Give me a good price to draw it for a full house if he has that. But more likely, I think he has something like either a good jack or maybe 2 pair. River card comes as a king of spades. That's getting bad to worse. Now a queen makes a straight. I check it. The next player checks, and this player bets again, this time for $50. I just think that he has a lot of 2 pair in his range, and he has a lot of straights in his and flushes in his range. I don't know whether I'm getting the right price. I'm a little flustered. I put in the call, and he shows me queen 9 So he makes a straight on the river. He flopped an open ender, so I don't think he was going anywhere with a bigger bet sizing. But that's just the way things go. Hopefully our next session will be better. So I'm going to head on home and come back in July. Well, it is July 1st, and my very first hand I play, I got pocket kings in middle position. There was an $8 straddle. I raced $25. I get a call from the player in the middle of the field, and when it gets around to the player in the under the gun position, he does eventually put in the call. So we're going to go three ways to this flop with $79 in the center. Flop comes out 10-8-3 rainbow. Pretty good flop for kings. First player takes a peek and checks his cards and checks it over to me. I'm going to bet about half pot here. The player behind me is someone who's very sticky, and I expect him to give me some loose action. He does put in the call, and then the player under the gun jams all in, and he has me covered. Now, with playing with this player for years, I know that he probably has two pair, most likely hand. I don't think he would overplay or over raise with a set very often. But he could also have ace 10 or maybe a hand like pocket jacks or pocket queens occasionally. So after doing some quick math, this is just an easy fold. I got about 25% equity against two pair. And I'd say 80 to 90% of his hands are two pairs. So I should just muck this. But then again, how do I know if my luck has changed, right? Because it's July now. And new month, new luck. The only way I'm going to find out is if I get to see a run out. So I stick in the chips knowing that I am probably way behind just to see if my luck is any different. And it is not. He shows 10-3 of spades.
Come on, Doug. The mathematics of poker doesn't care what the date is on a calendar. It only cares that you play well. If you know your beat, fold. If you're chasing, you deserve to lose.
Well, this is a kind of a weird hand, but I'll try to explain it. The under the gun player is where the action is coming from. He doesn't play many hands, but when he does, he plays them poorly. And he opened for a raise to $8. And it's folded around to the player in the button position, who is very conservative, and he 3-bets to 25. This is always aces or kings. And since I have kings, he must have aces. The button also has a short-ish stack. He has about $180 in his stack, whereas the player who's given the action has closer to $500 in his. He just got felted and he reloaded. So I want to play against the player who is maybe steaming a bit and try to dodge the conservative player who has aces. So re-raising here does not achieve that. It'll get the action player to fold, and of course the player with aces to shove it all in, and I'm going to be like hating life saying, why did I raise? So I decided to call and let the other player in, and we see a flop that comes out beautiful. King 8-3, or two diamonds. So I got top set. I check it. The player under the gun checks, and now the player, who I assume has aces, bets for $50. Now, I was thinking about maybe I should just raise here in case someone had a flush draw, but I wasn't concerned. The other player ended up folding. So my plan to play this with the player under the gun does not work out, but at least I got top set. But now I have to worry about a flush draw, and I know my opponent has two aces, so here's the 50-50 chance he has the ace of diamonds in his hand, and he's not going anywhere. And plus he only has like $110 remaining, so I decided just to stick it in there. He folds pocket aces face up, two black aces. I flashed the king of hearts just to make him think he made a bad lay down, and we're on to the next hand. Well, this next hand, there is a very competent, very solid player in the under the gun position who raises to $16. He's one of the better players in the Sacramento area, very tough to play against. I get one caller in between us, and with jacks on the button, I decided just to put in the flat call. Don't want to go crazy with this. You could easily have an overpair, ace-king type of hand. The flop comes king 10-6 with two hearts. It does get checked to me. So maybe he has a hand like ace queen or pocket queens even. I decided to bet for $40. First player folds out of the blinds, and then the under the gun player puts in the call for the 40 other players out of the way. So I think he has hands like ace queen, pocket queens. Maybe he's slow playing something big. Turn card is a 9 of diamonds. Brings in a gutter for a straight. He checks. I'm going to go ahead and just get the showdown. I check it back. River card comes as a queen of clubs. I make a straight. He decides to bet out for $50. I think if he had a bigger hand, he'd probably go larger. And I think the type of hands that he might call with are, if he had ace jack, would be ace jack suited. And since neither of the front door flushes or back door flushes contain a jack that he would have in his hand, I feel very safe in just putting in a raise here. I make it $150, just trying to get a little extra money. Of course, he could have a set of queens, and whether he calls with a set of queens or not, after some thought, he decides to let it go. I never did get a reveal on the hand, and I know if I asked him, he wouldn't tell me anyway. So he ends up folding, and we take down this hand. We ended up cashing out about an hour later. Still down for the day, but not as bad as it was after that first punt. Anyway, we're off to our final day of the week, and it is July 2nd. We just started this feeder game, and the very first hand off the deck, I get pocket jacks and the low jack. We have a limper. I raise to $20. After some long debating, the player on my left decides to make the call for the $20. It's then called by the player on the button and the player who limped in originally. So we're going to end up going 4 ways to this flop with $84 in the center. And I got a decent hand again to start off my day. Last 2 times I had a decent hand to start off my day, I got filtered each time, so I'm trying to avoid that this time. Flop comes out. Ace, queen, 7 with 2 spades and a heart. I do not have any spades or any hearts or any aces or queens. To easy check, player behind me bets for $40. Everybody folds out, and of course, I'm going to fold, and I'm like way ahead of my previous 2 days because I still have chips remaining. The player on my direct right is a very active player, the type of guy you want in your game. He's also first up on the change list, so I don't think he's going to be at the table very long. He's in the big blind. I decided to limp with 9-8 suited. Normally I come in to raise, but this has been a pretty passive table, and he loves to attack people that are passive. So I expect him to put in a raise, and when it does come back around to him, he makes it $20. Of course, I'm not going anywhere. I got a suited connected. He has 500 in his stack. I got 500 in mine. It seems like it's a good situation already. Flop comes queen 9-7. The player in the small blind checks. He checks. I decide to check this back. See the turn card of a 7 of spades. Both players check again. This is a green light to bet. No one has a 7, no one has a 9. They probably have possible draws though. They both end up calling. River card comes is a queen of hearts. They both check. I thought about going for thin value against an ace high type hand, but I decided just to check it back. First player just mucks his hand. The next player shows ace 10. I could have probably got a little value if I bet it. All right, I'm in middle position with pocket queens. There are 2 limpers in front of me, including the player who's a very active player. I make it $20. I get the call from the button, the small blind, the limper, and when it gets back around to the active player on my right, he decides to put in the old limp squeeze to $200. Now, what could he be doing this with? Well, I guess he could be doing like medium-sized pocket pairs. I think his big pocket pairs probably would have raised. I think his ace kings would mostly raise. Don't think he ever has aces or kings here. He's not the kind of a trappy player that you think. So I'm sure I am way ahead, and I just want to get it in before any scare cards come up. So I jam all in for 555. Everybody else folds. He snap calls. I asked him if he has a pair. He said, and I said I do. He says I have like 2 overcards. Is what he stated. Flop comes 5-4 deuce. That means he has a straight draw. Turn is a jack. River's a 6. I feel confident. Turn over my queens, and he shows he had 1 jack. So I guess he had ace jack instead of ace king there, and we get a double up with a pair of queens. Very fortunate that I had the right player to on my right to make that move and to pay off a jam. Well, the player on my right gets called to the main game, and so now he is gone. There is one other player here who is fairly active. I pick up pocket aces in the big blind. After a couple limpers, I raise to 20. I get 2 callers, including the other active player. Flop is 5-5-4 rainbow. Really good flop for my hand. No one can have ace-5 suited because I got both those suits. I bet out for $25, and the player in the low jack puts in the call. The other player folds out, and we're heads up to a turn, which is the king of clubs. Seems like a pretty good card to me. I'm going to continue. I go for $60. He makes a fairly quick call. Usually this indicates he either picked up a draw or he has a king. Well, the draw missed when it comes to the 2 of spades, but the king is still there. I'm trying to figure out how much he'll pay off for a 1 pair type of hand. I put out 140. He quickly calls. I show my aces, and he flashes that he did in fact have a king in his hand, and we win another one. Well, I continue to play, but the other active player moved to the main game, and I was not very high on the list for that main game. And I don't think anyone would leave that main game unless they ran out of money, because it was pretty juicy. So I decided whether I wanted to play with a not so good game for a while or just to take a break. And since it is the first win in a long, long time, I decided just to take my win and go edit some videos. Well, the first 2 days of the week were not great. The first day, of course, was just more bad, more bad, more bad. Second day, I had that big punt where I wasted $435 when I should have just folded. If I would have folded, I would have had a plus for the day, but instead I had a small loss. And this last day, I actually had some hands that stood up, and I would have played for hours upon hours with the lineup that I had when I first sat down. That lineup didn't last for long. It changed, and it didn't change for the better. It didn't look like it was going to get better anytime soon, so I just took a break, did some editing, and ended up taking a $200 win for the week home and a little over $700 win for the beginning of the month. Anyway, thanks for watching. I really do appreciate all your support. Hit that like, subscribe button, get notified, and we'll see you again here soon.